MadBhagavad Gita, Chapter-5, Karma Vairagya Yoga, Action and Renunciation. Verse 1. Arjuna said, O Krishna, from renunciation of activities, again you are also praising activities in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness. Please tell me definitely which one of the two is more beneficial. Verse 2. Lord Krishna said, both renunciation of actions and prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness lead to the path of liberation. But of the two, prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness is superior to renunciation of fruitive activities. It should be known, O mighty armed one, that one who neither disdains nor desires the fruits of actions is always a renunciate. Certainly that person, being free from all dualities, is easily liberated from bondage. Verse 4. The unintelligent say that renunciation of action and prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness are different, but not the educated. A person perfectly engaged in even one gains the results of both. That state which is achieved by renunciation of actions, that is reached also by prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness. A person who can factually see as one both renunciation of action and prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness actually understands. But renunciation of action, O mighty armed one, afflicts one with distress, without prescribed action in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness. One performing in prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness is a wise man, and without delay attains the ultimate truth. Verse 7. Performing prescribed actions in the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness, those of purified intelligence, those of controlled mind, and those who have conquered the senses, are not affected by actions, although engaged in actions, by self-realization of the soul within all souls of every living being. Verses 8 and 9. A performer of prescribed activities, a knower of truth, having ascertained that it is the senses engaged in their various sense objects, never thinks he is doing anything, in spite of seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, excreting, and grasping, like the involuntary opening and closing of the eyelids. One who acts by dedicating all activities to the ultimate truth, giving up attachment, is not affected by sin, just as a lotus leaf. Verse 11. Followers of the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness, giving up attachment, perform prescribed actions by the body, by the mind, by the intelligence, and by the separated senses for purifying
Verse
self.
12.
A performer of prescribed activities, giving up the desire for results of these activities, obtains uninterrupted peace. But a performer of fruitive activities becomes bound by obsession to the results of actions, due to desire to enjoy the fruits of action. Verse 13. Mentally renouncing all fruitive activities, the self-controlled embodied being within the physical body of 9 openings, free from thinking, he is the actual doer of anything, and free from thinking he is the cause of anything, resides happily. Verse 14. The ultimate consciousness neither creates human misconceptions of bodily identification, nor the bodily identifications fruitive activities, nor the union of the fruitive actions and the resultant fruits, but it is due to the modes of material nature, engagement in such acts. Verse 15. The omnipresent ultimate consciousness never accepts the sins nor either the virtues of anyone. Actual knowledge is enveloped by ignorance, and because of that the living entities are deluded. But of those whom this ignorance has been destroyed by the knowledge of the self, that knowledge is like the rising sun, illuminated by the ultimate truth. Verse 17. Those whose illusions are dispelled by knowledge, who are endowed with spiritual intelligence, who meditate on the inner self, whose faith is fixed, and who have taken complete shelter of the ultimate truth, attain liberation from the material existence. Only those who see with equal vision the ultimate truth, in a Brahmana endowed with Vedic knowledge and humility, in a cow, in an elephant, in a dog, and in the lower animal-eating members of humanity, are learned in genuine wisdom. Verse 19. Those whose minds are situated in equanimity, they conquer this world in this very life, since they are endowed with the equal vision of the ultimate truth, and free from all dualities. They are situated in the ultimate truth. Fully situated in the ultimate truth, poised in spiritual intelligence, devoid of delusion, one realized in the ultimate truth neither rejoices obtaining the pleasurable, nor laments when obtaining the unpleasurable. Verse 21. One whose mind is not attached to external sense objects enjoys the happiness of the inner self, self-realized in the ultimate truth by the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness. One enjoys unlimited bliss. Verse 22. O Arjuna, those pleasures arising from the senses, contacting sense objects, are indeed the source of misery only, subject to a beginning and an end. Therefore, the spiritually intelligent never take delight in them. That person who is able to neutralize in this life the physical, mental, and emotional urges generated from desire and passion, before the death of the body, he is fully self-controlled and certainly happy. Verse 24. One who experiences internal happiness with the mind immersed in the self, and who sees the self within as well, such a one, perfecting the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness, spiritually realizing the ultimate truth, attains the liberation of the ultimate. Verse 25. Those seers of truth, whose doubts have been dispelled, devoid of all sins, engaged in self-realization, and who are always concerned for the spiritual welfare of all living beings, achieve liberation. Verse 26. For those renounced, who aware of the soul are self-realized, and who are free from lust and anger, liberation in the ultimate truth occurs in this life. Verse 27 and 28. That person expelling from the mind unnecessary external sense objects, fixing the eyes between the eyebrows, practicing the suspension of breath control in the inhalation and exhalation of air flowing through the nostrils. Such a person is in control of the senses, mind, and spiritual intelligence. Being so dedicated to liberation, devoid of desire, fear, and anger, this wise one is certainly always factually. Verse 29. Thus knowing me as the most worshipable beneficiary of offering sacrifices and austerities, the ultimate controller of all planes of existence, and the demigods thereof, and the most merciful benefactor of all living entities, achieves perfect peace. Thus ends the MadBhagavad Gita Trust, translation of MadBhagavad Gita, Chapter 5, entitled Karma Vairagya Yoga, Action and Renunciation.